Temple Grandin is a woman with autism who has been advocating for people with autism since the mid-1980s by giving speeches and writing books. She took a stand against autism stereotypes, such as lack of communication, anger issues, and a more difficult time learning than the average student. She proved that autistic people can specialize in a certain area of work because of their different ways of thinking. Grandin leaves a legacy of improving the techniques used to educate children with autism and teaching all on the positive aspects of autism. Temple Grandin was born 4 years after Leo Kanner, child psychiatrist, first proposed the idea of autism in 1943. Before autism had been identified as a disorder, there were institutions for people with autism-like behavior and actions. Autistic people in these asylums were stereotyped and not given credit for their intelligence. They were put into asylums because of lack of communication skills, short attention spans, and having trouble learning. When Leo Kanner started to study autism, he observed 11 children and saw that they all had difficulty coping with specific senses and with social interactions. Some of the children also had speech problems. Then, in 1944, Hans Asperger studied a different group of children. Although many of the results of his research were the same as Kanner's, there were differences. None of the children had language problems, but spoke like adults, and their motor skills were not as fine-tuned. After the information of Kanner and Asperger was published, there was still little change in the medical community. People with autism were diagnosed with brain damage or other diseases when they should have been diagnosed with autism. Temple Grandin was diagnosed with brain damage when she was 2 years old. But when she was in her mid-teens, her mother read a checklist by the founder of the Autism Research Institute, Dr. Bernard Rimland, and with this diagnosed Temple with autism. When Grandin was in high school, she went to spend the summer on her aunt's ranch in Arizona. It was there that she learned how well she could relate to cows. Grandin thought in a series of images that flashed through her mind, the way cows do. When she watched cattle being vaccinated, she saw a special device helped calm them down by squeezing their sides. Grandin tried the device out for herself and found it relaxing. She spent that summer creating what she called the squeeze machine. With a pull of a string, the sides would press against her body, calming her down. This squeeze machine helped Grandin get accepted into Franklin Pierce University. Staff at her college didn't like her squeeze machine and made her conduct a test, proving that it really helped relax people. The staff didn't trust her because of her actions. While testing her machine, she realized that she wanted to become a scientist. After graduating, Grandin visited a slaughterhouse and seeing the harsh conditions, decided to design a cow chute that would make the cattle more comfortable as they went through. She already had a background with cattle from making the squeeze machine. Grandin crawled through the existing chute, adjusting certain things that she saw as bad for the cows. After testing the chute, ranchers realized it made the cows more relaxed, made the process easier, and made the meat taste better. This invention gained Temple Grandin the attention from which to start speaking on autism. When people learned that Temple Grandin was on the autism spectrum, they immediately downgraded her abilities. Grandin grew up on her own lane and had a way of thinking that only she thought she could understand. In the mid-1980s, she started to speak in public on autism at the request of Ruth Sullivan, founder of the Autism Society of America. The Autism Society of America works to increase public awareness on autism. They advocate for services for autistic people and are a leading grassroots autism organization. Because Temple Grandin had supporters from her work with livestock, the society thought she would be a good representative for their cause. Grandin spoke to educate all people on what autism is. She spoke out to other people with autism, encouraging them to come out and accept being autistic. In Grandin's speeches, she took a stand against stereotypes and supported early autism intervention and teacher assistance. She said that early intervention for children with autism would bring them support, so it would be easier for them to thrive and cope with autism.
If we wait for a child to fall very far behind in their communication skills, their social skills, and their academic skills, then we're having to play catch up, and we'll probably never be able to achieve the outcome of getting them back on track with everyone else. But if we find it really early and we help them from very early on with the building blocks that all children need to be successful, we may prevent them from really falling ever very far behind everyone else.
She supported laws about special education programs, including autism as its own category. Grandin also encouraged people with autism to accept who they were and consider autism a benefit instead of a weakness. Autistic people were often labeled negatively, and Grandin took a stand against this stereotyping. Grandin wrote the book, Emergence Labeled Autistic, to educate others on what autism is, what it means to be autistic, and what it's like to be autistic. Early on, even many doctors would immediately judge autistic patients because of their initial interactions with them, because they didn't understand autism. Grandin was able to speak from the experience of working with cattle ranchers who had treated her badly because of the way she acted. She started to educate others on autism in hopes of eliminating these stereotypes.
I think it's really important people to show what they can do. When I did my original cattle projects back in the 70s, one of the things that motivated me, I wanted to prove I could do it. Just prove I could do it.
When Temple Grandin spoke about the benefits of autism, some people with autism didn't agree with her. Grandin had support from her family and money for education, and because of these advantages, some autistic people thought she couldn't represent the whole spectrum. Older people with autism didn't grow up with support groups, and states lacked funding for people with disabilities and disorders. Also, they thought they couldn't benefit from Grandin's ideas about how autism should be appreciated. But Grandin kept speaking, and she was able to get support from the Autism Society of America. Soon after Grandin started to speak out for autism advocacy, the American Psychiatric Association published the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 3rd edition revised. This manual has all the diagnoses for mental disorders, including autism. This book helped support her cause and the things she was advocating for, and she used it in her speeches. This edition included specific identification of the autism spectrum, so diagnoses would be more precise. It identified autism as a specific disorder, instead of being blended in with others. This was a big leap towards autism appreciation. Temple Grandin's public speaking and books inspired teachers and parents to explore new styles of teaching autistic children. There was more early intervention with autistic children, and teachers had more support methods. They taught children through special verbal and sensory activities because of Grandin's knowledge of these areas. People obtained a better understanding of what autism really meant. As of the end of 2015, many states had created a committee to address autism needs and policies. In 1991, the government recognized autism as a category of special education. Public schools across the country started to identify children on the spectrum and give them special services. New schools have been founded where the main focus is children with autism. The Temple Grandin School, founded by Jen Wilger in 2011, focuses mainly on children who have not met special needs services in schools but still need extra attention to learn.
I want to see kids that are different be successful. One of the things I think is one of the most important things for kids, ADHD, dyslexic, mild autism, is that they find something they can turn into a career.
Because Grandin advocated for the education of autistic children, this school is an example of a community she created when she took a stand. She still has many conferences and does speeches every year, working to improve the lives of autistic people. Temple Grandin visited her aunt's farm, where she found a connection to cattle, launching her into a career of slaughterhouse improvements. After gaining respect from her work with livestock, Grandin started to do speeches on autism, taking a stand against autism stereotypes and educating America on what it means to be autistic. She inspires parents and teachers to teach children with autism in a different style and improve the treatment of autistic people. Temple Grandin gave a voice to people who never had a voice before.
I'm just a child of nature. I don't need much to set me free.